start putting from 6 to 10. And then do the same thing and 10 to 15. Every time you can see all the profile. The next thing, you need a contact number, you need the information. I am not hacking their site. I am just using a technique that they are allowed to use. I am doing nothing else. Okay? So next thing is, you need a contact number, you need an email address. How will you get it? So thing is, if anyone has a profile on some site, we are putting a profile, it's 80% or 90% sure they will have some profile on Orkut, Facebook, LinkedIn. Now Orkut is very good on search. Even if you don't put the name, use some information of the professor or city. It will use the list of the member who is part of that particular profile. And then go on Orkut, check that profile. It sometimes also happens, I found that Orkut profile is not public. Nowadays people used to make some private setting on that and you cannot see their email address or phone number, something like that. Still they have on there. So what do next? Okay, you got a profile, okay, and now you want to extract this information that is private. So now some social engineering kind of things come in the picture. Probably they will have 100 more friends out there. Friends. Not 100, but I believe out of 100 will find 10 people who have open public scrap. Go on their friend scrapbook and check for the scrap, what they have written there. And you will find some personal information there, using that you can contact. Someone gives their email address, someone gives their phone number, not that someone will where they are working, or they have joined new company, or this hospital or that hospital. Just go ahead. One I wanted to contact one doctor, I got the information of hospital where she is working. I called on the hospital and asked the number of, and I got the number. And always work for me 100% of the time, without any problem. So that's how you can use the technology if you know how it works. Just you have to think in a way how I can utilize this particular thing. So that's about scanning and enumeration. Next what? Then he will check out some application and then he will show you some live demo of some application security also. And then I will show you some live demo of the application also. Is it clear? Anyone has any doubt? Any question? Anything? Either you are understanding everything or you are not understanding anything. Or I am speaking very fast or I am speaking Chinese. Is it clear?
Okay. So the application protocol by HTTP, SMTP, and some of you might have actually read the RFC. But for people who haven't read, I'll just try to explain how the RFCs work. So, most of you might be aware of how DNS works.
Just switch off that time. It's infected.
Which one? The one on the stand?
No, that number.
SMTP protocol. Most of the things rely. So whenever you're actually accessing any of the websites, let's say you're trying to access google.com from your website. So what exactly happens is that your browser will initiate a DNS query to your DNS server and get the IP address of Google. So similar thing happens when you're actually sending mail. So there are different kinds of queries when, okay, there's a tool called NSLOOKUP in your Windows machine. And Linux, it's dig and NSLOOKUP both. So you have different kinds of query types defined in DNS. So the most common is when you have a domain name and you want to resolve it to an IP, the query type is A. Okay, so basically what you need is, if you are trying to say access gmail.com, it will resolve and give you an IP address for gmail.com, so the browser can actually connect to that machine. Okay. So similarly, you have something called as PTR query. So PTR query is exactly opposite of the A-type query, where you give an IP address and you get a domain name that's for the IP address. So this is the format in which you specify a PTR when you want to reverse the IP address and print it bootynether.alpha. So,
open and set here the router. The router.
should get permission.
Set करें cover set करें cover set.
Okay, so the important ones are A, and there is something called as an MX query, which is used in SMTP that we'll see how it works. So with an MX query, it actually gives you all the incoming or the responsible mail servers for a particular domain. So if you're trying to connect to send a mail to someone, you need to find out the actual SMTP servers for that domain. So MX query does that for you. And then they have something called as a preference. The lower the number, the higher the priority. So typically, a typical scenario would include some machine. Let's say it's trying to send mail to google.com, so it will pick up the highest priority mail exchanger. Okay. And which is the exact opposite of what spammers and phishers do, because in earlier days what used to happen was the low priority mail servers were actually kept as backups. So there was no anti-spam check, there was no antivirus check. You could just connect to it, send whatever payload you wanted to send without even getting scanned. So I mean, spammers still use this technique because it is effective in not very popular domains. So popular domains still take care of this thing. Okay. So let's start with SMTP. So let's say you have a client here and you are s.com and you want to send a mail to someone at r.com. Okay. So how does SMTP work? Okay, so when you are actually sending the mail does not directly go to the recipient. The SMTP protocol is actually store and forward protocol. So you connect to a server, the server receives the mail, server stores it for some time, connects to another server, sends the mail, another server will save it for some time. So that is, this is the internet cloud. In a typical scenario, what happens is your client is configured to connect directly to your internal mail server, which is obviously whatever internal IP you give or the server name that you give. So in that case, your client connects directly to the server, talks SMTP, sends the mail to the server takes the responsibility. We'll see where the responsibility comes into the picture when we go into the detail of the protocol. Okay. And based on the configuration of your internal network, you might have different SMTP servers located. So it's not that this might directly go out onto the internet. This might be configured to connect to some other SMTP server. Let's say you're sitting here in Pune. There's one server in Pune and the main server is in Delhi. So your mail will go to the Pune server. From Pune server, it will be routed to Delhi for whatever policy reasons or antivirus checks or whatever. And then finally, when it has to go out to r.com, the last edge server, the edge mail router, what it will do is it will do an MX query for r.com. It will get the highest priority mail server. It will do an A query for, so let's say this is the highest priority, it will do an A query for this, get the IP address, connect to it, and start talking SMTP. Okay? So, it will use the same protocol, send the mail over to this. This will take on the responsibility of delivering the mail or sending out a message back saying I couldn't deliver the message. Now this is again could be configured to send mail inside to some other server for whatever policy reasons. And then finally it goes to a data store. That is what is commonly known as the inbox of the user. Okay. So your mail is stored in the inbox, and then you can use, let's say, POP, IMAP, or plain old HTTP to access your mail from the mail store. Okay. So how many of you are actually familiar with the protocol SMTP or its working? Okay. So I'll just quickly go over it. I mean, I won't go into much details. Okay, so SMTP is a text-based protocol, and like any other text-based protocol, you have commands and then you have response codes. So in a typical scenario, what will happen is you will connect to the server. As soon as you connect to the server, you will get a banner from the server with a response code. So the response code are defined as 3-digit numbers where you have 2xy. 2xy means a successful execution of the command. So it can be 220, 250 or whatever. 300 is for a transient successful command wherein the server is actually waiting for some more commands from the client. 400 is a temporary error. So let's say the client is, if there's a temporary error, the client is supposed to connect back after some time to the server and send the mail. 5xy is a permanent error, so it means that the server is not going to process whatever the client is sending. Okay. So most of the commands are plain old English. So this is all you need to do to send a mail to someone. You're going to do it manually. So the first command is, okay, before we go into the commands, I would like to talk on what is an internet message. When you say email, what actually constitutes an email? So it's almost the same as a regular snail mail. You have something called as an envelope of the email, and then you have the contents of the email. Okay. Okay. So your envelope consists of the recipient's actual address and the the sender's address. Okay, which is optional, as in the case of snail mail. So So in the case of snail mail also you have to write to what